Hey, everybody. Welcome. You are listening to Alumless. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Friday before Christmas. Yeah, here on the show, we talk about engagement strategies and educational advancement. I'm Ryan Catherwood, and of course, I'm here with Chris Marshall. He is the founder, the leader, the CEO of CMAC, and of course, Alumless is a CMAC production. If you have any questions for Chris or myself, or just want to say hello, please use the comment section of the LinkedIn event and say hello. And yeah, we'll ask Monica any of your questions, or if you want to chat with Chris and I during the live show, we'll attempt to answer your questions or save them for the podcast edition, the bonus segment, which we'll record with each and all of our guests. And you can hear on the podcast version of Alumless. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast edition to hear our Friday Cheers section, which we always save for the end of the episode. And we're incredibly grateful to have an awesome sponsor for Protopia. Protopia is our sponsoring partner. And we as engagement pros are always thinking about how to turn volunteers into our champions. Why? There are lots of reasons, but volunteers give at even 2 times the rate than others, 2 or 3 times the rate. This is particularly important for those alumni leaders working in integrated advancement models because we're trying to create a pipeline of donors. At the same time, students throughout their educational journey have questions and could use the advice of alumni. We're asked to figure out ways to make the alumni network more available from prospective student to former student and develop partnerships across campus that will showcase in real terms how valuable the alumni network can be. So that's what Protopia solves for. Without requiring alumni or students to sign up for another app or platform, Protopia's AI-powered technology activates alumni and turns them into volunteers in a flash. Students and alumni seeking advice are connected while removing the administrative burden to the staff. Protopia is the tool that you've been looking for. Visit protopia.co/alumless and be sure to mention Ryan and Chris sent you. And actually, we just sent out, Chris, our first newsletter. What's our first kind of draft, right? We're imagining a more robust email communication this to our listeners. So if you received an email from us this week, we're trying to get one off the ground. We mentioned a survey that we'd been talking about, a new business concept. We were promoting Monica's appearance this week, and we promoted Protopia a little bit. So if you didn't get the newsletter and you want to, definitely give me an email, ryan@cmac.me, and we'll make sure to add you to the list. But Chris, it's the holiday season, my friend. It's Friday before we break for the semester. I think pretty much most people have checked out already. Monica's here today. I guess she's still working. Are you doing any work today? What are you doing?
Yeah, working this morning, but no one's responding to emails, which I kind of expected. But I try not to dump things on people's plates going into break, but I had a few cleanup things I had to get done. So just a little bit of work, and then I'm going to take 10 days. So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you completely check out? Like, do you turn off notifications? Do you look at emails? Like, what do you do to completely, or not quite completely check out?
I know the right answer is I should completely, but the real answer is that I do for a few days right over the holidays. Then, starting after Christmas, I'll pretty much every morning spend an hour cleaning up email that's come in just so I don't have a pile when I get back.
Otherwise, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I'd almost rather stay on top of it a little bit, and make sure that the things don't quite pile up. Stay proactive rather than reactive, Yep. Oh, there's the Marshall alarm. Well, so holiday season, I thought it would be fun to start off and talking just a minute or two about traditions in the Marshall household. You have any unique kind of family traditions around the holidays?
Yes, and it starts with the Friday after Thanksgiving. So I just saw Karen write in. The right answer is completely unplug. I know, Karen. Thank you for that. But our tradition starts the Friday after Thanksgiving, and we decorate the house, and we don't stop decorating until about mid-December when it's all done. And my daughter Savannah and I counted last night, counting the smallest Christmas trees. These are 3-dimensional objects. So Christmas tree is really small, and the big 8-foot one in the living room. We have 82 different Christmas trees in our house. Now, 6 big ones, but the other ones are all little model things. but there's 82 Christmas trees, 60 wreaths hung in our house or on our house, and 20 nutcrackers. So that's my job, is to get them out of the basement and help decorate. And then the other big thing is on Christmas Day, Ryan, we actually do presents in the morning. We go out for dinner. We go to a Chinese food restaurant, and we go to a movie. That's been for the last, since the kids have been born, young kids have been born. We do it every year.
So I think that's a great tradition. And I was at your house last weekend, and I can attest the Christmas cheer at the Marshall household is extraordinary. I can vouch for those numbers of Christmas trees. I did not attempt to count, but I imagine that you thoroughly counted, and I can see it. It's impeccably decorated. So
it's like a lobby of a hotel in our house.
It's really fantastic. We saw each other last weekend at the Washburn McGoldrick holiday party. I want to ask you kind of about that partnership. We're going to bring Monica out. Monica is a Washburn McGoldrick partner. With Karen's listening on. What excites you the most about our Washburn McGoldrick partnership in 2024?
What I've seen happen over the year, I mean, our overlapping circles keep overlapping is how I would describe it. And the work that's happening in our industry around, I would describe it as a more integrated advancement approach, is continually happening over more and more of our clients. So the work that Washburn does traditionally on the development side, and the work that we do that leads right into that work, just it's a natural partnership and a great blend and combo, and great partners and the people in the equation. Karen, who's on with us today, with Bonnie Devlin, I've known for 22 years. The two things that are sort of bubbling that I think would be really 24, we'll see some advances made, is in our survey work that we're doing. I think we're doing some really interesting stuff here with opportunities to even grow and get bigger and better in that regard. And then I think the one you and I had a conversation last week about, or earlier this week, was it? About training, alumni engagement, and donor engagement. How can we provide training? Washburn McGoldrick has a great intensive program where they train gift officers, and we can dovetail with our own work sort of at a foundational level around alumni and donor engagement training. So I think we're going to see that evolve this year too. Those are the two things I'm most looking forward to for this coming year.
Yeah, I was thinking to add to that, we had a potential client approach us and said, hey, we'd love for you to create an advancement strategic plan for us, and so oftentimes we get brought in to create engagement strategic plans. But when a partnership with Washburn McGoldrick, we can create these, I think, great advancement strategic planning initiatives and assist universities in thinking holistically about the integrated advancement model, but all the elements fit together. One of which, of course, is operations. And I feel like that's a great segue to bring out our special guest for today. We have, Monica, welcome. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Monica.
How are you? Thank you for doing this, Monica, on the last day of work, probably for you, right?
Of course. Happy to.
Yeah, thank you.
Monica Keith is the Vice President of Advancement at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. I had the chance to visit Monica. I guess, has it been 2 weeks now? Almost.
I spy.
I was just there the other day. I really was. And time flies by. But yeah, we spent the day together. And I've known Monica for many years now, actually going back to when we were colleagues at Washington and Lee together. And I've always been just so impressed because, there aren't that many folks who have come up through advancement operations and are now leading advancement teams. I mean, it's just kind of the case. There may be more than I know of, but Monica's kind of the one person that I'd heard of recently that, has that background kind of in the back of the house side of the shop and is now leading the whole advancement shop. So I'm looking forward to talking, Monica, to you about that. I guess the first question for you is thinking about the advancement operations teams you led at Colby College and at Skidmore and others, of course, along your professional path. How do you think those experiences have helped you now as you lead the advancement team at Knox?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that advancement has always been in the unique position, operations specifically, to kind of see the broader picture of what everyone else is doing, from the alumni engagement office to the major gifts to the annual fund. We're usually coalescing and reporting all sorts of data points for them, and we can see the intersections specifically when it comes to communications, right? Like who's sending what, when, how often. I'm noted for kind of raising the flag and being like, did you know we have 6 emails going out today? Does that make sense? Like, maybe you guys should talk to each other, or trying to bring them together and figure out how do we be more strategic about what we're saying, who we're saying it to, and when. So I think I bring that kind of element in mind. I am very data focused, and I think in my partnerships with some very talented VPs over the years, we've been able to kind of bring more data into, the advancement work and the engagement work. And I've learned a lot from them as leaders of how they use that information and how they think about it with their directors as well.
I think it's a fantastic sort of reminder that the folks working in the operational roles really do have their eyes on the whole puzzle, in a way that other folks either on the development or engagement side just don't. And I think what you said makes a lot of sense to me. It is somewhat unusual. We mentioned that about someone with your role, sort of taking on the VP role. Have you had any growing pains so far in terms of thinking about that frontline fundraising aspect now and working with major donors? I guess it is a bit different in terms of the work that you're doing each and every day.
It is. It's very different. I'd never been forward facing in that way. And I think, I've actually enjoyed it much more than I thought I might. I was a little hesitant, of course, but I love talking about higher ed, liberal arts education, meeting alumni. I think that has come more naturally than I thought it would. The challenges, I think, were really more internal. I guess I had not realized, the partnerships across campus and the need to kind of bring awareness of what engagement and advancement is. A lot of times it's a little bit like, oh, we don't want to ask for money when you're talking to other departments or faculty. And, and I have to say, we do so much more than just ask for money. We're trying to engage alumni with the institution, bring them back as speakers, recognize their achievements. And yes, of course, a huge part of what we do is solicit philanthropy, but they have relationships that I think we need to remind them that we can work together to kind of bring people together here at Knox, and to kind of promote our mission and the work of our students and their futures.
Monica, I should know this, but did you come to Knox in the VP advancement role? Were you there originally?
I did come for the VP role, yes.
Well, were you actively looking for a vice president role that brought
I
you there?
actually was not at all. Yeah, I was not looking at all. I was at Skidmore and I was happy doing what I was doing, but I had I'd worked with Andy McGadney, President McGadney, previously, and we just had kept in touch over the years, and he had mentioned he had this role and asked if I would be interested, and kind of did a little bit of research. I called quite a few former VPs that I'd worked with and colleagues, and I kind of said, what do you think about my kind of taking on a role like this? And fortunately, all of them were like, I think you could do this. The experience and personality, and just kind of, it's a different perspective on the work. So I took a chance, and I've appreciated it.
Yeah, good for you for doing it though. Putting yourself out in the field like that in the front facing role, giving your back. I think it's wonderful. Good for you.
Thanks.
Well, you've been in the role about 2 years now. What surprised you the most? I would imagine what surprised you about it sort of personally in terms of how you had to adjust to that front-facing role. And then what's something that you've been dealing with that may be a bit unexpected?
Sure. I think what has surprised me the most is really probably COVID related. It's just how much the field that I've been in for the past 20 years had really just blown up from a lot of different ways. How people think about giving and their impact. The staffing in particular, I think, has been the biggest challenge, is people rethinking how they want to work, where they want to work, and how they approach this type of work. But I would say work in general, I think the pools have gotten very challenging. I found it the most challenging to kind of really look at annual giving staff. I think a lot of people left the annual giving sphere, and I've talked to several colleagues who've confirmed that as well. So really thinking about what are transferable skills, and how do we train people who are not naturally thinking about advancement as a career, to think about how important it is and how they can make it a career.
Do you think, I mean, do you feel like, Chris, maybe this one is for you as well? I would love to hear. Do you think these roles in advancement have become fundamentally less attractive to people? I mean, in, I guess, universities, for example, many of them require 5 days on site, right? Have gone back to pre-COVID types of recruitment rules, or kind of, I think it's fair to say that we have left much of the COVID paradigm behind and are now shifting back to, is there something about, these roles in higher ed that make it less attractive than they used to? Why do you think we're having these candidate pool problems?
Monica, you should have this answer.
I think he said Chris. So
yeah, I'll start and jump in.
It was kind of the both of you. I suppose
Yeah,
there's
I know.
lots of reasons,
You promised Monica no curveballs, and you threw a nice knuckle.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think it's everywhere we look. We almost every client is struggling, has open positions, and they're trying to fill. Just today, I posted Denison University. Yeah. They don't have any vacancies. They're growing by 5 new positions, and they're posting 5. That's all at once. So that's a big step. But almost every week, I have a client ask me to post a job for them. They're just constantly vacant, and I think it's something to do with the work flexibility, something to do with compensation. There's lots of factors in there, but the one that is outside of advancement, although it touches it for sure, is I think the college president role is going to be the hardest one. I can't imagine anybody wanting that job right now. Looking around the country, what's going on, it's a really tough role to take on. Not just the advancement piece, just the politics of leading an institution. So I think it's just we're in a tough spot in higher ed. I don't have a firm solution. I think there's lots of options out there, but Monica, any reaction or thoughts to what I said?
No, I completely agree. And I find it interesting, and maybe I've been in this role in advancement too long, because I feel like advancement is more exciting than it's ever been because of these challenges, because of, a little bit of the politics and the questioning of the value of a college degree. But I find that to be opportunities to talk more about the importance of it. But I understand that not everyone's willing to engage in those conversations, especially if it's involving, soliciting for philanthropy. But again, I feel like it is an opportunity, and we just need to find the right people. And that's not necessarily skill based anymore. It's a little bit more of transferable skills and interests.
I do like that idea that you suggest. I mean, we should be finding people outside our industry, bringing in people with marketing and sales experience and the like, that I think the people that I've seen do well have enjoyed it, and have made a huge impact at their institutions and changed the industry. There's lots of examples of people who came in with an outside experience and flipped things on their head, and that's a good thing for us. I think we should be.
Yeah, I think we have to definitely be more entrepreneurial than we've ever been. Higher ed has always been slow to change, right? But now we're all being forced to kind of, reckon with we need to be creative. We need to, explore paths that we never had before.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I think that's definitely one of the reasons I get inspired by the work, because I do see the opportunity is in getting creative and doing things a bit differently and evolving from where we were before. And I mean, Monica, thinking about your experience in operations, what are some early adjustments that you've had to make at Knox in order to help the team sort of move to the next level and position the team ready to grow? And you've got some lofty fundraising goals, right? And you're trying to reach some big numbers.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it was really organizationally, right? Thinking about job descriptions and what they were and what I think that they really need to be in this kind of space that we're in. So, getting buy-in in terms of kind of having people think about not just engagement as events, but engagement is also, and again, COVID kind of changed some of that and we had to go to virtual, but there's still events. But, are events always meaningful? Not so much. And how do we think, about the next step of getting people involved, getting them on campus, connecting alumni to each other, and ultimately with the goal for philanthropy. So I think when I came in, there were more, and we're not a big shop, but there are silos, and it's just because it's the way that it's been done over the years. And so trying to have everyone step back and say, okay, these are the things that we're doing. If you are an alum, where do you fall in and what are you seeing, and are they connected, or do you feel more connected because you're getting this type of communication or mailing, and then you're getting this from this department. So really trying to have our people, again, think alumni parent specific as opposed to like, what are my goals specifically? So, I did a little bit of staff reorganization, but really kind of changed job descriptions to think about the things that we haven't been doing that we would like to do, and leaving space for that creativity and, the collaboration that I think really has to happen in our work.
One of the things Ryan and I have talked about this, we actually demonstrated this with a client recently, where the old model for an alumni engagement professional was someone who had event planning experience. That was most of what they had in terms of skill set, and they understood marketing, volunteer, and fundraising even. But I think it's flipped. I think marketing communications is the lead now. What you need, someone volunteer management is second. You don't get rid of events; it's still on there, but it's not as big a chunk of skill set. Yeah, it's tactical. Yeah.
I think that's maybe one of. Go ahead, Chris.
I want to go to the next question, but if you want to stay on topic, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say maybe that's part of the problem when it comes to sort of operationalizing, getting new people in the door, is that we're struggling with that flipping, right? And the people we're looking for to fill these roles are a little bit different. And yet, anyway, there's probably another show there to talk about that.
A 2-hour panel on this one.
There's probably a panel that we talk about that. Yeah.
Bonnie, let me pivot just for a little bit. So working with the consultant is the topic generally here. So you've been a Washburn McGoldrick client for the past couple of years, and Karen George, one of the principal co-owners of Washburn McGoldrick. Her partner is Bonnie Devlin, who I've known Bonnie for 22 years and Karen for the past 5 years now. And two of the smartest people I've met on the planet, and wonderful consultants, that's caring and thoughtful. So I'm poisoning the well a little bit here by asking you this preliminary part of the question with this, but what have you learned? What's been some of the more memorable things or advice that Karen's given you that you take and keep with you today?
Yeah, every piece of advice that Karen gives me is valuable, and I take with me. I'll leave with that. But I would say early on, because I'm new in like the frontline facing role, was really kind of encouraging me to use my kind of perspective and background, and not be trying to kind of take away from what VPs have done in the past. So to kind of capitalize on my experience and my perspective. And so I try to remind myself that when I feel like everyone has like imposter syndrome, right? It's like is this right? Should I be doing it this way? And I think she's taught me to kind of trust my gut, which my gut is very operational, but I do think there's value there. And, so it's just being able to kind of realign in the work.
Yeah. She's on the chat. Well, she's watching live right now. So hi, Karen.
Oh, hey, Karen.
And she said, when I asked that question, she wrote, should I log off now before we say phrases? But she's just a wonderful. The thing I like about her is competitive background. She's a runner, distance runner, and her competitiveness comes with this great compassion and coaching that comes with the work she does. So I could see her doing that kind of stuff with you, to trust your own gut and your instincts. And
I also love about Karen, her background starts on campus when she was a telephone or a phone-a-thon caller. That's like the origin story is just perfect for sort of, starting from the earliest beginnings of advancement work, and now to be doing what she's been doing for so many years. I think it's fantastic. And Monica, has your opinion or thinking about the engagement side of the shop changed at all since you've been taken over? I know you've had that viewpoint from the operational standpoint at the different universities. That's how you and I were working together
Mhm.
more than 10 years ago now. Has your thinking changed around engagement? What's your vision for activating more alumni and creating an engagement continuum and a donor pipeline there at Knox?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on our kind of session 2 weeks ago, I'm definitely moving towards the integrated model with both annual giving and the engagement team. And again, I don't want our engagement team to be asking for annual fund gifts. That's not the point. But I think that volunteer piece is key. And we've done a really good job with events, and we have a volunteer structure per se, but it's not one that's really strong and doesn't really have a ramp yet. And our annual giving office has no volunteers. So I feel like we've got this entire opportunity here to think about, if we were to build something, how do we make it meaningful? How do we start small and grow over time? And again, not necessarily volunteer fundraisers in every instance, but we have a few committees, we have some career center volunteers, we have athletic volunteers, and they don't hear anything that's the same right now. So, how do we kind of work together within our two units and kind of make sure that our volunteers have the same experience across anything that they do here at Knox? What do we give them the talking points? Do we thank them the same way? Do we build a connection that is more than just that volunteer role? Because ultimately, I think what we want to do is be able to kind of sustain the volunteerism and the philanthropy way past the programs, the roles, and the staff who are managing them. And we haven't holistically thought about that yet. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. And again, you've met the staff. They're all willing to learn. It's just not natural. It hasn't happened yet. So trying to see that there is this opportunity and how we can kind of not have one person just be assigned to doing it, but that it's part of the ethos of what we're trying to build. That's how again, it's donor and volunteer centric. Like, what is their experience? And, do they feel like it's been a good use of their time and their money?
I think that's kind of the fundamental shift that's happening right now in our space, is that for a long time we thought of, using experiential events to then find just a handful of sort of activate like the most engaged alumni for board-based and council-based and intimate volunteer experiences. But what we need to do is have a fewer events and somehow build a scalable volunteer system where there's far more volunteer opportunities to get involved with the university. So maybe rather than thinking of a strategy that fundamentally is about scaling events, it's fundamentally thinking about a strategy that increases the number of available volunteer opportunities. I don't know, Chris, would you agree with that?
Amen and hallelujah is my response to that. I mean, I think we should be doing less events and more what you're describing, and including, offering micro volunteering opportunities that people can do in their homes and do it digitally and not have to come to campus for, a 2-day meeting and serve on a board. I think of those as not as an opportunity. A lot of times board service is more of a sentence than it is an opportunity. So we need to have lighter versions of it. I 100% agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
Monica, a follow-up question for you. So I might be partly to blame for one of the exercises you did when Ryan was in town. I don't know if he told you this, but I was the instigator of the marshmallow challenge exercise.
I love it.
Doing that about 4 years ago, and I've had really good success with it. How did you respond to it? What was your thoughts on it?
I think they appreciate it. I did not participate. I've done it before at another place, and but I find it is a very worthwhile experiment, right? It's about teamwork. It's about communication. You find out the competitive nature of people.
Exactly right. There's a lot of lessons to come out.
A lot of personalities come out on that one.
I mean,
for those who have never tried it, the marshmallow challenge is you take spaghetti, a yard of string, and a yard of tape. 20 pieces of spaghetti, a yard of string, and a yard of tape, and one marshmallow, and you got to build a structure that will support the marshmallow on top. And it was really actually, I thought, a great exercise that puts people way outside their comfort zone and has them do something that they've never tried to do before.
Well,
Almost.
it gets at what, Monica, what you're talking about is that you were describing change in culture of your organization, and this forces people to quickly collaborate in a way that's outside the norms of what a culture looks like. So, the old adage that, culture eats strategy for breakfast. This forces people to think about things in a different way. And it's one of the exercises we do to help bring about the change that's needed in culture, to get people to be iterative in their process, to communicate, collaborate earlier, all those things that the lessons that teaches us. So I'm glad you did it.
Thank you. It was great.
Good.
Well, we'll pick up the conversation with Monica in the bonus section that we'll put up on the podcast. So for those who are listening live or who are catching this episode after the fact on YouTube or on LinkedIn, thank you for tuning in. And hopefully, if you haven't already, you're picking us up on the podcast version so you can hear our conversation with Monica extended and with all of our special guests. You can pick that up on the major podcast apps of Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. So
let's tease the next one, though. January 5th, our first one in 24. Our good friend and colleague, and I can't wait for this conversation, Scott Morey from Carnegie Mellon, someone else who came from a different background, someone who came out of the alumni engagement side. He's now the vice president for advancement at Carnegie Mellon in the midst of a multi-billion-dollar campaign and doing really cool things there, and looking forward to talking to Scott.
Yeah, me too. I've had a quick handshake with Scott before, never had the chance for an in-depth conversation, but really looking forward to that. So tune us in 2 weeks' time. Actually, we are looking at that first Friday after the new year. So folks may not be back to the office yet at that point. Maybe they will, but we'll be in your podcast feed and here live on LinkedIn and on YouTube for Scott Morey in 2 weeks. But for Chris and for Monica, thank you so much for listening, tuning into Alumnus. We appreciate you. Happy holidays, and we'll see you.
Holidays, everybody. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
See you in 2024. All right. Bye.
Bye.